everybody. Welcome to episode 14 of the Heelcast. I am Oscar W. Fitchett, and once again, I have a non-heel member on a Heelcast, and he has been a part of a Heelcast before, Heelcast episode 10, for anyone who is curious, and it is Tyrell Lisson. Say hi, Tyrell.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks, Oscar, for having me on again, man.
Yeah, it should be fun. Had fun talking last time. Had fun talking Bond on Pan Tilt Zoom. And should be fun talking Quentin Tarantino, a director who I would say we are both fans of.
Yes, yeah.
If that's an understatement. So yeah, I've got just basic topics here, starting subjects. And what this basically is, it's going to be a casual type of conversation about just the work of Tarantino, more so his directorial films. I mean, we can delve into True Romance or Natural Born Killers or From Dusk Till Dawn if we want. I honestly haven't seen any of those, so that's why I wouldn't go into them, but if you want to bring them up, that's fine. To start things off, I just want to, what are your just general opinions on Tarantino, Tyrell?
Wow, Tarantino's an interesting director because I think he fundamentally changed cinema in the way in which how movies are made, but also he changed a generation of young filmmakers that are just kind of coming up now in a lot of ways. Because he's not that young anymore. Tarantino's 52. He was kind of a latecomer, but he's really good at taking these kind of cinematic traditions that we've already seen before. Kung Fu movies, Westerns, Japanese martial arts type things, and bringing them together and mashing them down and giving them kind of this American pop culture boost, and create some of the best and most iconic films alongside some fantastic dialogue. The guy is great at dialogue.
Exactly. Yeah, I would agree. He is one of my favorite directors working today. I would say at least maybe top 5, if not top 3 for me personally. But I love him more as a writer. Personally, he is my favorite screenwriter. His screenplay for Pulp Fiction, in my eyes, is up there with some of the best screenplays ever. I think it has just great, amazing dialogue, great characters, great arcs of the stories, which is very important, I think, because if you have a very unfinished story, that can just have a bad taste after the film. And each one of the stories, because there's like 3 different ones, 4, I guess, and they're all complete in a way. And I do think he's adapted well through each year and each genre he has been given, because I mean he does well in the genre as well as he molds that genre into making to fit in him as a filmmaker. More recently, Hateful Eight is a very traditional type of Western, but the way it's presented in terms of dialogue, and especially the second half of the film, adapts very well into the traditional Tarantino violent aspect of it. So, my general opinions on QT is that I really love him, and if he's doing a film, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna definitely find a way to watch it. No matter really what it is, I'm always intrigued because he's just an interesting filmmaker.
100%. The thing about Tarantino that intrigues me is you touch on genre. We have genre conventions. There's genre theory and the things that go into that, and kind of dispelling and kind of like breaking down genre theory and things like that. Tarantino is good at he's really good at, and he owns up to it, taking those things that people love and ripping them from someone else and then putting his spin on it. But that spin also comes from 1,000 other things. So he's basically the master collector in terms of bringing things and fitting Lego blocks on top of each other into making something. And along with his non-linear storytelling and his kind of he has this thing where he goes with a heavy aesthetic look to a lot of his violence. We know this. Yes. We've seen this 100 times. The gore, that's cool. He gets tons of hate for that from a certain select group of people. Not to mention, we can't forget about the cast. He's throughout his entire career, he's pretty much had ensemble cast, and he's really good at getting the actors to give phenomenal performances.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a Tarantino film, it's near enough impossible for you to have a bad performance. Like, you have to try, I think, to not, like, be good. And I mean, Tarantino has definitely said that some actors just don't read his... They just don't fit with him. So, I mean... I just think it's very impressive how many different types of actors he gets to fit his style. I mean, Bruce Dern fits very well in just his world and everything, I think. I mean, one of my things I had down was just like his characters as well, because I mean, his characters are almost like that. Like, it's that you could make a top 10 Quentin Tarantino character list, I think, and you will have plenty of honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for many different reasons, because I think Jules from Pulp Fiction is a very, very good character, but not in the reason because he's so fleshed out, just because he's just the way he is. He just has a presence about him, which is just intimidating, but it's also very... I don't know, he had, like, that character just has a lot to him without the story telling you a lot about him, I think. And on the other hand, you have the character of Beatrix from Kill Bill, who is my personal favourite Tarantino character, being, plenty about her, and she gets beaten down, and she gets tossed about and everything, and you're always with her, I feel.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's interesting, and if we're talking about somebody who plays phenomenal characters in Tarantino films, like Sam Jackson has the most performances in a Tarantino film. Out of the 8 films he's got, he is in 6 of them. And
6?
Yeah. It's great. It's crazy.
I know he did a bit of a narration for Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
And he was in Kill Bill Volume 2. Mm-hmm. I think it was when he was wasn't he the wedding pianist?
I believe so, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill as the thing.
Yeah.
Inglourious Bastards, he makes a cameo in that. Django Unchained and Hateful Eight. Those are his 6. Yeah, and obviously playing a lead role in a little bit less than that, but and we're talking about his role in just the Hateful Eight this year. Phenomenal role. Really nailed that character. Some good one-liners, some good monologues. Django Unchained, I think his character of Steven, is one of the most underrated Quentin Tarantino characters. He's hilarious, but he's also the smartest one on the plantation. He talked about that at the roundtable for the Hollywood Reporter. He's like, Tarantino always writes me the most intelligent characters. Steven runs the plant, you know what I mean? Like, he's the smartest guy in the Hateful Eight, he's the most philosophical and probably one of the smartest guys in Pulp Fiction, kind of like that. That's interesting, the characterization. And you know what, Sam Jackson basically owes a lot of his, in terms of looking back when Sam Jackson dead, and you're looking back at his life and career. He's made a lot of money, he's been in a lot of movies, but the ones that you're going to remember him for his acting prowess, and the acting prowess as a whole you're going to remember, is probably most likely going to be all in Tarantino films.
Exactly. I mean, when I think Sam Jackson, I think Tarantino. I mean, it's like that one line in the epic rap battle of history where the Quentin Tarantino character comes up and says, is dissing Spielberg and saying, no one's going to remember Sam Jackson for called what's his name from Jurassic Park or something like that, because he is the standout. Well, he's one of the standouts. Saying that he is the standout in every Tarantino film is very. In Django Unchained, I think you had DiCaprio, who was a standout.
Yeah.
Sam Jackson and Christoph Waltz. I think all 3 of those were standouts, and the fact that you had 3 standout show stealers in the same scene was just it. I mean, what I like about Tarantino as well, he knows what his fans want, and he knows when to give it to them in terms of like character exposition or where this character is going to go. And even, I mean, deaths is a very that's a very regular thing in a Tarantino film, and he always manages to have the most shocking deaths in his films.
Yeah, even though they're coming.
Yeah, I mean, because we will probably be talking spoilers about Tarantino films. I think it's safe to say that. When I first watched Pulp Fiction, when John Travolta, Vincent Vega, when he got killed off, I was expecting it because they kind of were setting up a little bit, but it was just so shocking how it happened. In terms of, like, we had this character who was essentially a lead in the film, and how he got killed off in that way, I think, was very. It took me off guard, at least, in terms, because that's something like a side character, like just instantly just pew, 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 and then gone, but that was to one of the main characters, and that is, again, even though you're expecting it at that moment, it's still a very shocking and surprising thing, I feel. And he does that a lot with most of his films.
So I just want to go back off your point there and talking about Tarantino being the ultimate fan, or making movies for the fans, and it's because, in essence, before Tarantino is a filmmaker, he was a movie fan, watching thousands of movies. You see him in interviews. He's seen movies from every decade.
Oh, definitely,
and then him taking all the best parts of those movies that he's seen, and then putting that together for his pleasure. But ultimately, that's the pleasure of the fans too, because moviegoers, they like good things, and he takes the best things from movies and eras and all that stuff and combines them into one picture. And that's why I think that's the formula to Tarantino's success, because if you're not a movie fan and you make movies, I don't know how many people are going to watch them. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, if you don't have much passion for the medium you're making for, I don't see you really succeeding too much in terms of transitioning your passion onto the screen if you don't have much. And you can tell Tarantino has passion for cinema. I mean, even going so much so as filming The Hateful Eight in 70mm and using lenses from, I think it was like Ben-Hur.
Yeah.
If I'm like, I mean, that's dedication, and that's like going the extra mile for just to make the film that more, just that more better for the viewers. And I mean, The Hateful Eight was my first Quentin Tarantino cinema experience, because I was literally not old enough to see any of his other films in the cinema, and the way that was, like, that felt like an actual cinema experience. Because I mean, even though I didn't see it in 70mm, just the way, like, the aspect ratio and the fact that there was an interval in it just really added that more to it, I felt. And I mean, one thing that I'm curious about is, like, what was your first Quentin Tarantino film?
The first Quentin Tarantino film that I saw in theaters, or just saw in general?
Just saw in general.
The first one I saw was Pulp Fiction.
Oh, right, okay.
Because I'm born in 95. It came out a year before I was born. And I don't know the year I saw it, but I remember watching it with a group of friends at one of our houses. And it was an interesting movie, because you know what? Young me, I'd never seen a movie like that. And I didn't know if I liked it at that point, because I was still quite young, but I knew it was interesting and I was intrigued. And then, it sat in the back of my mind, and I would think about it from time to time. And then I reviewed it a couple years later, and I think I reviewed it around the time that it might have been Inglourious Bastards came out, because, like, Tarantino, he had success in terms of box office, but I think even though I feel that Inglourious Basterds is probably one of his least commercially viable films, even though it's one of his most successful ones in terms of actually money making, when that started coming out, I was like, oh, that's cool because it's Nazis and stuff.
Yeah.
I went back and watched Pulp Fiction as a little bit of a little bit older, really liked it, and then I went and saw Inglourious Basterds in the cinema, and I was completely blown away.
Yeah. I think part of Inglourious Basterds is box office being one of his more successful ones was more so of the marketing, because I remember it being a lot like the way the trailers were portrayed, it made it seem more like a Brad Pitt action film of killing Nazis, and so that might have something to do with it. But my first Quentin Tarantino film that I saw was his first film, being Reservoir Dogs. I remember because a friend of mine at the time, it was his favorite film, and he was going on about it plenty. And I saw it when I was I'm trying to think. I would have been about 16, 17 when I saw Reservoir Dogs, and I remember I remember enjoying it because, I mean, at that point I had seen films like 12 Angry Men and stuff like that. So I was a bit more, like, the reason why I compared that is because of the, more of the one location type of thing. And that Reservoir Dogs is a film that it's one of these films for me that's like in the mid in terms of the list of Quentin Tarantino films for me, because I've only seen it once, and it's never one of those films I feel the need to go back to every now and then.
Right. That's interesting, because I've had a love-hate relationship with Reservoir Dogs in the essence that, like, I think it's a really good first film. Yes. I think a lot of people would really want it as a first film. Definitely. A lot of people would just want it at the top of their filmography because that's how good it is. Mm-hmm. But it just goes to show the quality of his work. But just talking about Reservoir Dogs for a second, I think the downfall to that film ultimately was the fact that, again, I agree with your opening statement that he is a better writer than he is director, even to this day.
Yeah.
And that it kind of shows in some of the shot selection, blocking, in terms of even the cinematography in that. And, obviously the cinematographer is responsible for that in part, but, like, it's Definitely. Tarantino's vision. Mm-hmm. It's his movie. He's thought about it. So it suffers from that more so than a lot of other first films, because I feel like a lot of people have gone to film school, or not to say that matters, but they have an understanding because they've wanted to be a director. I think Tarantino, before he ever thought about being a director, was more concerned with being a writer, right? So that's why I think that film is a little bit weird with me sometimes, but just in terms of actual content and acting, it's phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's why, in a lot of ways, Hateful Eight is the kind of, okay, now I'm older, I get it, I'm a better director now, let's take another stab at that same style, and I'll show you the cinematic flares we can put on it.
I totally agree with you in terms of that, with Hateful Eight being just, like, in terms of, like, he's kind of going back to that formula and being like, right, I've had 20 plus years of experience now, I know what I'm kind of doing in terms of directing, here we go. But going back to also Reservoir Dogs, there is, I mean, yeah, like, the acting I think is really good, the writing's very strong, do agree with you, like, it's his least most visually pleasing film, I guess you would say, because, I mean, his visual style in his later films is very, very noticeable. Like, it's very Tarantino. Like, I mean, like Inglourious Basterds and Pulp Fiction, even that has a very, like, a flair to it. There was something about Reservoir Dogs that didn't have that, like, just visual flair to it. Again, not saying that it's a poorly directed film. I'm not saying that at all. I would kill to be able to direct like that in my first feature, which but it is definitely his least, it's one of his weaker films in my eyes, but that's not saying at all that it's a bad film, because I don't think he's made a truly bad film.
No, me neither.
I mean, even my least favourite of his being Death Proof,
Yeah.
even that is still fun. I still find some enjoyment out of that.
No, I agree. Like, I always say with certain directors, but like we're using Tarantino as an example here. If that's his worst film, whatever it may be, in your opinion, like I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're like, okay, Django is his worst film. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's a film that most working directors today, even if they wouldn't say it out loud, would most likely take that film and be very proud, and that would be on the top of their list of best films.
Definitely.
That speaks again to the utmost quality of the work. And like I put I put Reservoir Dogs a bit higher on my list. I think it's like fourth now or something like that. But I have my qualms with Death Proof is not great, but like it's got a lot of redeeming qualities in it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting overall. So I'm just I'm usually pleased walking out of the cinema with Quentin Tarantino. That doesn't mean that I just give him a free pass, because like I'm hard on him and different things, but I think that all of his films have been quality. I've walked out, or I've finished viewing being like, I don't regret wasting time or money watching that.
Definitely. I mean, because it's very easy for people to label you just a Quentin Tarantino fanboy for just being believe it or not, just happy with all of his films. It's easy just to be labelled that way. It happens with many acclaimed directors these days. But it's really one of those moments where it's like, if I were to make if I were to make a film of any quality of any one of Tarantino's films, whether it be one of his weaker ones, I would still be very, very happy with the outcome of that. Well, again, no matter what your opinion on any Tarantino film. And that's another thing. I know, like, Tarantino's filmography is very varied in terms of, like, people's favourites and least favourites. I know of people who think that Death Proof is one of his better films. I know of people who aren't that bigger fans of Pulp Fiction and like that. Even though the majority opinion is that Pulp Fiction's his best film, and that is my favourite Tarantino film of his. That's my favourite Tarantino film. But it's one of these moments where I can understand completely if anyone says that Pulp Fiction's their least favourite. I can understand that, and if someone says Death Proof is their favourite, I may not agree, but I can't necessarily fault them because he does so many different types of styles.
No, yeah, that's a good thing, because Tarantino, he gives you the same thing every time, in essence of, like, when you go in, you're going to get a Tarantino film, but he changes it up enough that it's refreshing each time, and that's a hard balance to come by, and it's going to work. Like, and I agree, like, I personally, I'm not big on the Kill Bill series.
All right.
Two I like more than one, but
okay.
like it's on the bottom half of the list for me.
Yeah.
And then I used to like Django a lot more, but I personally feel like there's a huge circle jerk around Django, and that people, when I see people personally touting it above Pulp Fiction or Inglourious Basterds, for me personally, I don't understand why. And then I sit back and I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter because it's a quality film regardless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Regardless of the fact that I think 30 minutes should be cut off at the end of Django Unchained, it's a really good film, and it's got really good performances. So I'm pleased every time that there's something Tarantino, because of the whole 10 film thing, which I think he's not actually going to follow through with, but because of that, you have to cherish every moment you have with Tarantino.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he makes long films, aside from Reservoir Dogs, they're like over 2 hours, so I mean, he gives you enough to digest, I think. So I mean, we can't really complain. We got like if he does stop at 10 films, which I have mixed feelings about that, whether if he will go forward or not with it in terms of stopping altogether with making films. I think if he does, then we can't really complain, because we've had great films overall. And going off the Django Unchained thing, I was one of these guys who wasn't all that impressed with Django first viewing, because I remember just hearing nothing but like, oh, it's amazing, it's one of Tarantino's best, and etc. etc. I remember watching it, and I just remember thinking that I'm not sure if it was because it got overhyped, but I remember just thinking that it was a good Tarantino film. However, as I've gone on to watch it more times, I've seen it 3 times in total now, I've gone to like it more, but I still don't get this almost second coming presence that some people give Django Unchained, in all honesty. Because, I mean, if you really do, I mean, I'm not hating on Django, really, because I do think it's an excellently made film, but at the end of the day, it is more of just a blaxploitation Tarantino film, which they are kind of schlock films, the blaxploitation genre.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time studying and doing papers on blaxploitation, 70s blaxploitation, like Shaft and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when people say Django's a Western, like, it definitely has that elements, but even more so, you're right, it's a blaxploitation film. And the thing about Django that got me was it definitely suffered in the editing department, because I believe Sally Menken, I don't know, I forget his editor's name, but who's worked with him the whole time, she passed away.
Yes.
During the filming of this, and then Fred Raskin finished it out, and I believe he's been the assistant editor, or at least he had worked on editing some Tarantino before, if I'm correct. I'm not exactly sure, but apparently she wasn't afraid to tell him, no, that's enough. Like, the original Pulp Fiction date scene between John Travolta and Uma Thurman was an hour long, and she's like, no, that's not happening, and he's like, no, yeah. She's like, no, we're cutting it. So, like, the problem is that, like, I believe Fred won't stand up to Tarantino as much, or maybe he doesn't have as good of an eye, or whatever it may be. The editing has suffered in that department, and Django, I think, has time to grow as a film in terms of, like, as you get more viewings and you look deeper into it. But I just don't think it touches the nostalgic factor of Pulp Fiction, the messages, the distorted timeline, the characters, everything about Pulp Fiction in that regard, I think, is probably better if you're comparing the two.
I mean, definitely, I think Pulp Fiction exceeds in every aspect. In terms of, like, comparing Tarantino films, in terms of, like, the script, the characters, the editing, especially, I think, with a non-linear story like Pulp Fiction, it did a very good. It was very well done in keeping the viewer's attention, and even, like, just like, I don't feel a slow point in Pulp Fiction, and I do think that's. Really, like props to the editing in that regards. There are slow moments in Django, and I do agree that there are points where maybe we could cut that down a tad bit. I love hearing Tarantino dialogue, but I do think that there is moments where it's like, did we need that? Did as funny as it was, the Jonah Hill scene in Django Unchained, mm-hmm. I felt that went on a little bit too much, but it was a funny scene, but it did get on a little bit. I mean, one film that I do want to bring up, because, I mean, this is my second favourite Tarantino film, Inglourious Basterds, and this was his first venture into a period piece, and I think it's one of his more tamer films, and it's way more of his dialogue driven films, personally, and I think that works for the better.
Yeah, 100%. Now, what I like to attribute, I don't know, I probably didn't come up with this, like, I'm not, but I've talked about it a couple times before. Pulp Fiction, I think, unanimously, is probably his best film.
Yeah.
But his magnum opus, the highest of his abilities, is Inglourious Basterds. And that's why, for me, Pulp Fiction is 1A and Inglourious Basterds is 1B. Because, first of all, you're right about the dialogue. The bar scene holy shit, we're talking masterwork here. We're talking about if you're teaching a class on direction, cinematography, dialogue, every essence of cinema, you would look at that. The scene at the beginning in the farm.
Yes.
All of this, a lot of people hate foreign films. They hate foreign language films. I watch a lot of foreign language films, and that doesn't mean I like the foreign language all the time. Sometimes I hate reading subtitles. But in this instant, I don't even know about the language barrier. I'm paying so much attention to this, and I'm so engrossed in the overall story that it's unfathomable. And I was like, after I watched that, I'm like, if I watched that by somebody else and it was missing one of those components, I don't think I would have liked it. I think I would have said, this is the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. Yeah. But Tarantino was able to bring all this together. And, again, I want to pay homage to the other people that obviously work on these films.
Yes.
But that ability for Tarantino to bring these people together and pull together to create one of these, a film like Inglourious Basterds is just out of this world. Like, I don't think a lot of people can top that.
Yeah, I do agree on you. You're hearing a lot of this recently. Like, I agree on you. I agree with you on that. I agree with you on. But I do yes. Pulp Fiction, personally, my favorite film by him. Best made film, Inglourious Basterds, I feel, because I mean the foreign language thing's a great example. There are very few. Because, I mean, in terms of foreign films, there's very few foreign films where it's like, I forget that I'm reading it, and the words just kind of just go into my mind, just automatic. I don't feel like I'm reading subtitles, more so that I'm just I forget it's a foreign film sometimes. Like, films like The Hunt and Amores Perros do that very well, and I think Inglourious Basterds does that as well. I mean, the opening scene is one of the most tense scenes in cinema that I've seen. And what's happening at that scene? It's basically just two guys talking. Basically. But again, the way, the characters, the acting from Christoph Waltz and the actor who played the farmer, just both of them did an incredible job. And I mean, Christoph Waltz might have the best performance in a Tarantino film as I forgot his actual name. Hans, yeah. He's the Jew hunter, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, that is probably the best performance in a Tarantino film, I think, because I mean, he's just so menacing. Even when he's just smiling, he's just having a good time. But there's something about him where you're like, I feel like you can just pull a gun out at any time or something, even though he never does that. The most violent thing he does is when he chokes out Diane Kruger, but there's something about him, his character, that just makes you think he can just do anything, really.
You're right. That milk, the whole thing with the milk. It's just in a normal movie, it'd be okay, whatever. He's drinking some milk. Just the craft of the acting and the dialogue and everything there. And I'm like, it must be a real challenge too, because I highly doubt Tarantino knows. I'm pretty sure they're speaking a couple different languages there, but I think they're speaking predominantly French, if I remember correctly.
In that scene, it was French.
Yeah. So I'm like, Tarantino probably doesn't know French that well, so it's how do you judge, as somebody who makes films, and if I don't know the language very well, how do you judge if that's a good performance or not? Well, you lay that rest on a lot of the acting. You might have, at least with a budget like this, you might have somebody on set making sure that the dialogue is being pronounced right and everything is going according to plan. Yeah. But I was like, that's a hard task. That's a hard film to make. That's a hard scene to craft, and it's just done so well.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people who were disappointed in the lack of Brad Pitt in that film, but in all honesty, when everything about the film was just so engaging that I almost forgot that Brad Pitt wasn't in it all that much.
100%.
At the end of the day, I think Lieutenant Aldo Raine, he's a fine character, but he's more so comedic relief in the film, I think. And he's good comedic relief. I mean, the whole Italian bit was I think that's really funny. But
Buongiorno.
Yeah, but Buongiorno. Yeah, and but all the emotional all the emotional weight does rely on Melanie Laurent's character, I think, and talk about a great job at like introducing new and very capable talent to everyone with Inglourious Basterds. I mean, Christoph Waltz and Melanie Laurent. Melanie Laurent hasn't done as much as Waltz, but both of them were. I would not have known about them if it wasn't for Inglourious Basterds, and I'm grateful for that because they are both very good actors. I mean, Christoph Waltz did a I forgot what I think it was a Clash of the Clans advert, and I was enthralled by it. So,
oh yeah.
Like with him and James Corden. I mean, like
yeah.
I'm enthralled by him talking about this daft app, and in all honesty, he probably wouldn't have got this exposure if it wasn't for Inglourious Basterds. Which, yeah,
you're right. That's so interesting because like, he had a career obviously before this, but definitely, like that film made him an American star. That made him his money, definitely. You know what I mean? That brought him to the world stage in a lot of ways, like that we know of with Hollywood bringing foreign stars or foreign actors in and really making them complete superstars. And I thank him for that because of the exposure. Like, I probably wouldn't have delved that deep into finding out who Christoph Waltz was if I didn't know about Tarantino, picking him up, right? So that's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he's gone to the point where it's like people are disappointed if he's not, like, if he's misused or anything like that. He's become that type of actor. I mean, Spectre. One of the main gripes I've had with that film was like we didn't have enough Christoph Waltz, and I mean, I do think he's a very powerful actor. I'm waiting for that exposure to be given to Mads Mikkelsen someday. Maybe Rogue One will give us that. I don't know, but. Yeah, I mean, Inglourious Basterds overall is that's a film that got better with repeat views. I think that's just an overall theme with Tarantino in my eyes. Like the films just get better. Like I didn't do a Hateful Eight review because I think to myself, can I really give that much of a constructive review yet about it? Because I'm waiting. One thing, I'm waiting for someone else to see it so I can have a discussion about it for a video. And second of all, me personally, I can't say too much else yet about it, which, I think you need to let a Tarantino film breathe. I mean, Tarantino said it best when he talked about There Will Be Blood. When he talked about There Will Be Blood, he was saying, you at least need to see it more than once, otherwise you can't have a fathomable conversation about it, because you just won't get it yet. I think it's the same with his films. Like, you just can't have that much of a conversation about it unless if you let it breathe or see it again or something like that.
No, yeah, completely. And I was having that discussion about rewatchability with. I'm really looking forward to Hail Caesar, yes. and in North America it comes out this Thursday. I believe it doesn't come out till March in the UK, right?
I think so. March or April, it's something like that. Yeah,
and I was like, the Coen brothers are one of those group of filmmakers that I don't think, except for maybe one or two occasions that I watched a film of theirs for the first time, and I was like, it's great. I had to watch it twice before I fully appreciated it. The Big Lebowski, Fargo, all of that. So that speaks to a testament too. Like, a lot of people will be like, well, if you have to rewatch it, it's crap. But at the same time, these filmmakers aren't making films for the mass audience.
Exactly.
They're making it for the film fan. They're intelligent, and unless you have an intelligent audience that is willing to work a muscle in their brain to kind of figure out the complexities of these pictures, then you're not going to get them. So, like, it takes me a couple times, not because I'm dumb or anything, but because, like, I'm on the first go around, I'm interested in the plot and what's going on in that, and I'm looking at surface things, camera angles, all that. That's what I do. And then on the second viewing, I'm looking at a lot of these subtext, and then after that, I can sit down and I'm like, holy shit, like, this is a great film. This is a really, really good film. So I like that. Why not? I want to watch a movie a couple times,
Definitely, yeah, because, I mean, first viewing, you watch for the story. You watch for where you're being taken in terms of the characters and whatnot. Second time, for me, that's when I'm analyzing it more in terms of... I don't mean that like I'm getting pen and paper out, like digesting every single frame. I'm just looking more into it like, oh, this is a character trait. Why would that be a character trait? And you might trace back into something. It's just more for the true fans, I think. I mean the fact that Tarantino's films are based in the same world, there are many different links to it. Like, I mean, in Reservoir Dogs, there's a literal name drop of Marcellus Wallace. In Kill Bill Volume 2, there's a gravestone with the name Schultz, which is the same surname as Christoph Waltz's character in Django Unchained. And I mean, the biggest link that I think even most people will know is the Vega brothers, being Vic Vega and Vincent Vega, who were possibly going to get a film, which would have had to been a prequel, because if you know, both characters died in their respective films, so you're going to need a prequel. And, you know, Manson and Travolta, they weren't getting any younger, and they weren't necessarily aging well, so that clearly just kind of got scrapped. But I'm just curious, like, would you be up for kind of like a Vega Brothers film, but almost like a recasting of each one?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think about recasting a lot, because I have a series that I do on it just for fun. I'd be down for it. You know, I like the It's interesting because there's a lot of things like I don't know if Tarantino would do it this late in his career. Like
exactly, yeah.
And I don't think you'd want somebody else doing it. And you recast. Like I could personally, I don't care about Travolta, but like he is the one. You know, he is the one guy to play Vincent Vega. Like he's that guy. So it's like the whole Han Solo debacle type thing. Yeah. But you know, I'd give it a spin. Like everything would have to be in order, but like I'm not opposed to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of a recast for Vincent Vega who Travolta played. But I'm not sure about you, but I can maybe imagine Joseph Gordon-Levitt portraying Vic Vega.
Yeah, I could maybe. Yeah.
Because, I mean, he was going to be in Django Unchained until he dropped out to do Don John. So it's not like it's out of the ordinary for them to work together. And I think Gordon-Levitt can pull off kind of like that almost like squinty-eyed coolness about, I don't know. But I mean, it's one of these things like I wouldn't be opposed, but at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily want Tarantino at this point to go back to that. The fact, because I mean, he might end up doing another Western because I forgot what it was, but he did say like, heck, you're not a Western director unless if you direct 3 Westerns, so I'm not sure if that's a hint of like, I might want to do another Western. I'm not sure if I want him to do another Western, but I'm not opposed to that, because honestly, seeing Hateful Eight, I was like, why don't we have more Westerns? And I realised, oh wait, because most people don't take them seriously, but I mean, I just think it's so interesting in terms of like how he links all of his films, like the very subtle things as well. And those are also things for you to go back to if you want to be that type of guy, and if you want to just get more out of it for yourself. He's cool that way in terms of, like, he puts different things. Like, I'm sure I might have heard the name Candy said in Hateful Eight. I don't know. Need to watch Hateful Eight again, but it's literally those moments which I'm like, I'm gonna need to watch it again because of that. But it's also, I'm not complaining if I watch Hateful Eight again.
No, yeah, I get you. I completely agree.
One thing I also had in here was like, what are like some of your? We might briefly touched upon this, but again, it might be brief. But who is your like favorite Tarantino character?
Damn.
Dropping the hard questions.
Yeah. Well, I like Bruce Willis's character in Pulp Fiction.
Yes,
quite a bit.
Yeah. Butch. Yeah.
Butch is interesting because I don't know. There's something about that kind of that phase of his career. Bruce Willis is the kind of the Die Hard and then like the the Die Hard and then the Pulp Fiction. It's interesting, and I think that was in his prime definitely. But I really enjoy a lot of the acting in Inglourious Bastards.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy Christoph Waltz a lot as Hans Landa. I really like Leo as Candy.
Yes. Yeah.
And Sam Jackson, I really have an affinity for his character in Hateful Eight already.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, I think those are some of my favorite. I really like the early Bruce Willis. I like the Hans Landa. Those are probably the ones that I enjoy the most. If I'm telling somebody who my favorite is, those probably two are the ones that I come to each time.
Yeah. I mean, I did briefly say on it would Beatrix for me personally, because I'm not necessarily a feminist, but I'm a sucker for strong females in films. I mean, recently as well, talking about that, I mean, Rey in Star Wars, instantly one of my favourite characters in Star Wars now, just because that, but she also has a character, but Beatrix is also that way as well. She has a character too, I think, that's expanded in 2 films, and I haven't really talked about Kill Bill yet. This might be interesting because this might be the first time that we disagree on a Tarantino film. Kill Bill Volume 1, I prefer way more over Volume 2. Volume 2, I remember watching and kind of being disappointed by it and being kind of like, I can watch that once and maybe never again. Whereas Kill Bill, Volume 1, I've watched many times. It might be because Kill Bill Volume 1 is more done in the martial arts sense. Yeah. Volume 2 is more done in a Western type of way. I've never been a huge fan of Westerns. I've been a sucker for Asian martial arts cinema. I'm huge on... I mean, if you know me, I'm huge on films like Hero and just really any Asian cinema, and especially the samurai type thing. I mean, Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai is one of my all-time favorites. But but Kill Bill, I just have so much fun with it. Like, it's one of these films that it's impossible for me not to have fun, because and I do I did have an argument with this back in college when a friend of mine did say, I watched Kill Bill I tried to watch Kill Bill. I went, alright. He went, it's absolutely rubbish. I went, it's one of my favourite films. And we just had a bit of a back and forth, because he was like, yeah, but the pussy wagon. I was like, yeah, but that's the point. It's like, it's meant to be this type of that's part of the fun, where it's a bit of the lightheartedness about it. I agree. It's not one of... If we're talking about one of these films where you go in and you try to digest more about it, like Inglourious Bastards, Kill Bill's not that. Kill Bill's not the film to be like, ooh, let me try to digest the characters and everything like that. It's more like... It's told more forward to you, as opposed to like you have to try and figure it out. And the ending of Volume 1 is one of the best cliffhanger endings for me, in terms like Bill says something along the lines, I can't quote it perfectly, but he says something along the lines of like, does she know her daughter's still alive? And then boom, directed by Quentin Tarantino. I was like, I was literally just like, oh my god. I was fine, I had the DVD, so I watched it the day later, but I can only imagine people seeing it in the cinema and having to wait a year for people who were actually invested in the film, though. So, I mean, Kill Bill is probably my 3rd favorite Tarantino film, like Volume 1.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because, like, in my perspective, like, I said it wasn't one of my favorites, but there's a lot of elements that I like. I don't know if it all came together for me. I feel one of the things that really throws me off is the score and is the musical arrangement in the film. That kind of throws me off. But, like, again, like, these are petty things. Like we've said, like, these are things that, like, okay, if it's anybody else's film, it's fine, really. But it just didn't. If we're talking again, I don't know why I'm using this analogy again, but if it's like building Lego blocks, like, to me, not every piece fit together perfectly enough for me. Yeah. But at the same time, like, it's a phenomenal piece of cinema. It has some really, really good cinematography. It's got some great, characters. The character a Beatrix like Uma Thurman is so good.
Yes.
So good.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I just revisited it recently in the last 2 or 3 months, and I did like it better the second time around. I watched them back to back. I like them better the second time around for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also cinematography going on that. I mean, I'm a sucker for a fight scene in snow, especially a bloody fight scene.
Oh yeah.
Just because, I mean, it just looks cool with the red blood on the white snow. It's almost like kind of just like tarnishing the purity of it in a way. It's if you want to be pretentious about it. But I mean, like stuff like the moment where like Beatrix just sliced Lucy Liu's scalp off, and just with the blood streak, just like that. That is one of the moments where, as an ambitious filmmaker, I'm just like, oh god, yes, it's like it's a filmgasm right there, just in on itself. That one shot, and yeah, I mean, Kill Bill is definitely one of those ones where I can see both sides and everything. The music, I totally understand, which that was done by RZA. From what I understand, from what I remember, I mean, I watched The Man with the Iron Fists, which he did write, direct, star, and I believe he did the music in that as well. And,
Okay.
And his again, that kind of felt a bit. It felt like the music's good, but it at times it does feel out of place for the film. I do think, but one of the main aspects of Kill Bill that Volume 1 that I'm a fan of is the anime bit, which is the backstory of Lucy Liu character.
Right.
And when I say that I'm a fan of anime, I don't mean that I delve that deep into it. I grew up with Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that, and I'm a big appreciator of the Ghibli films. And
Okay.
But so. And, of course, Asian culture in general, I'm a sucker for. So, and I just felt that scene in particular felt very authentic. And that did add to the feel of, again, like, the feel of the whole Asian tone of Kill Bill. Again, which is why, I mean, I can watch any martial arts film, as bad as it is. I will stick up for it because it's one of the. Everyone has that type of genre. I knew a guy who was very apologetic for found footage films, even though he knew how bad some of them were. I'm like that with some martial arts films, and there are moments in Kill Bill which are very like cheesy, and they are very, to anyone else they could be down points for the film, but for me that's just something that adds to it. That's why I personally really like Kill Bill Volume 1.
No, yeah, and I'll agree with you. Like, the cheesy elements, that doesn't deter, because like there's a level of cheesiness with all of Tarantino's work, but like that doesn't, like, cheesy's been synonymous with bad, but that's not the case. I don't think. I think that's too rigid of a definition, because sometimes we want that. It's kind of like the word nostalgia is becoming a buzzword, but also a bad word, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. But anyway, yeah, like I agree.
Yeah, and kind of going a bit back on the Hateful Eight, and this can just count for general Tarantino stuff, mainly for Hateful Eight, because the main complaint I've been hearing about Hateful Eight, because surprisingly enough, this film hasn't been getting that much critical praise, which I'm surprised about, is that apparently the gore and the blood felt very out of place from the start of it. What are your opinions on that?
I don't agree with that sentiment. I think we live in an overly politically correct time, and I think people associate these things with a multitude of different things that there's no association. And I think, if anything, the blood and gore is obviously a staple of Tarantino's work, regardless of it. For crying out loud, Hitler didn't get blown into bits by a machine gun.
That's so good.
But people still, for the most part, accepted that. So what's the change? Why are you expecting something different from Tarantino? No. out. And I think, if anything, the over brutality of it is speaking to the sentiment of Tarantino and his whole idea of police brutality and, gunning down of African Americans and black individuals in America. And it's really, if you look at Hateful Eight, that's what it's really talking about: police brutality, authority, things like that.
Yes, yeah.
And if anything, if you don't understand that, if you don't see that, then that's what you're missing there. That's the thing that's not linking you together. And if you still don't agree with that, then I don't think there's really anything that you should be surprised about, because if you watch any Tarantino film, you're going to get the same thing, and he's always kind of done that, and it's also always kind of been a slight problem every time. People like to raise a stink about it, but it really becomes a non-issue. I don't think it's an issue, you know what I mean?
Definitely. I can, it is, Hateful Eight does start off quite traditional, but I mean, I know what I'm getting involved in. It's a Quentin Tarantino film. It's gonna have plenty of F-bombs, most likely some N-words dropped, and you're gonna get plenty of blood. And that's just a Tarantino staple. That's like if I went into a Disney film and I complained that there was music. You know what I mean? It's you gotta know what you're getting yourself into. And that's what I feel with Hateful Eight. The second part, the first hour and a half was very restrained in terms of the violence. But that's just the setup. That's literally just Tarantino making you get to know the characters before he starts blowing their nuts off, literally. And I mean, when guns started coming out and blood started spraying all that, the over the top blood, I'm fine with, because it is Tarantino. Like the moment where Sam Jackson just shot up Damien Bichir, and he, literally fountains of blood came from his chest. I expect that. And when that happened, my face lit up, because I'm like, hell yeah, it's Quentin Tarantino. And I do think his whole, he's been defending himself for decades now about the whole, violence thing. He had this thing. There's this video online when he's interviewing for Kill Bill Volume 1, and this woman who...
Jan. Yeah.
Yeah, who's literally just well, I don't think it's good for... And then you fast forward until his Channel 4 interview when he's promoting Django Unchained, where this guy's near enough asking the same questions. The guy who peed off Robert Downey Jr., he's near enough asking the same question as he answered a decade ago. And you can see he's sick of it. And as a fan, I'm sick of hearing the same thing, because I'm like, don't you know that it's it should just be associated with Quentin Tarantino. You're going to get violence. I mean, it's really,
it's a testament in the outrage culture we live in today. Everybody has to be outraged by something, and you can have your opinion, you can disagree or you can agree, but the fact that a lot of people don't even have their own opinion, they just go with the flow. They go with it. Okay, that's dumb. Okay, it's outrageous. We can't stand for that. It's so stupid, and really, I just stopped complying with a lot of the bullshit.
Definitely.
I don't have any time of day for the people it's over violent. Well, you know what? There's no linkage. If you're getting scientific, there's really no linkage between violence in video games, violence in movies. There's really nothing there to support any of that, really. If anything, there's evidence to support the other way around. So, just drop the issue. It's a non-issue. It's there's so many non-issues that we're fighting today, and this is probably one of the most frivolous ones.
It is a thing where it's just even I'm just can we just not watch the film? Can we just not watch? I mean, I think this. I mean, Scorsese has plenty of violence. What more so realistic than Tarantino? You don't hear people during interviews of Scorsese going so I don't think this is inappropriate. It's going to affect our youth. You don't hear that when people... in Wolf of Wall Street, you don't hear people going, I think all this nudity and sex is very offensive. You don't. So it does feel like people targeting Tarantino because it's Tarantino more so than the film, which is the thing you should be talking about in these types of things.
I agree.
Yeah, and to kind of finish things off, I found out recently that apparently Daniel Day-Lewis was actually wanting the role of Vincent Vega from Pulp Fiction, and this got me thinking, just in general, like, which actor would you like for Tarantino to collaborate with in the future that he may not have collaborated with? Because I honestly think that Daniel Day-Lewis, if Tarantino's doing another period piece, I would be all for Daniel Day-Lewis being the antagonist in the same style as he did when he was Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, I can see that. That's a good one. I like the sounds of Oscar Isaac.
Yes.
Oscar Isaac, I've been following his career for a little bit now. I think Inside Llewyn Davis is one of the best Coen Brothers films and one of his best performances. Definitely. I think that he's an up-and-comer. I think Star Wars will propel him along with X-Men. I think people will finally start to recognize him. He is not afraid of Ex Machina as well. Yes. He's not afraid of that kind of role. He's not afraid to take on that dialogue, that characterization. He can play the good guy. He can play the bad guy. He can play charming, all of that stuff. I want Oscar Isaac in a lead role in the Tarantino film.
Going for another foreign talent who I think deserves more recognition, being Choi Min-sik, who is mainly known for being the lead in Oldboy and the serial killer in I Saw the Devil. I'm not sure how good his English language is, but I think he's a phenomenal actor that would do excellently in a Tarantino film. Just watch I Saw the Devil, and he has that kind of charisma, that kind of demented charisma that DiCaprio had in Django Unchained, which I could totally see with Tarantino. And one other name I will throw out there just for fun, and it would just be amazing if this actually happened. Tarantino is he got Jonah Hill for one film. I wouldn't mind seeing Louis C.K. in a Quentin Tarantino film.
Ooh, that could be fun.
Yeah.
I got a couple more for you, just quick. Benicio del Toro.
Yes.
One of the best actors, underappreciated actors of his generation.
I loved him in 21 Grams, so yeah.
Yeah, 21 Grams. I believe it's Traffic. He was really good in Sicario. Yeah. I will throw out... I want to see, I really love this actress. She's really good, and I think she's just at the beginning. What's her name? Saoirse Ronan.
Okay.
I believe, and why I say this is because she was in Hannah, okay?
Yes.
And I have mixed opinions about Hannah,
Same.
but I think she could be a badass female lead in a Tarantino flick. I think she'd be good. She would bring a different spin. I think Tarantino can really work with anybody for the most part. And you need a good actress or an actor. And I think she would be good. And lastly, to go along, to continue this kind of thing, Domhnall Gleeson.
Yeah. Okay.
Great actor. He can play a bad guy, I think, and he can play a very convincing good guy. He's charming. He works well. Throw him in with Oscar Isaac, and they could have another bromance in the picture again. And I think those three I really like. Two of them are obviously from the general UK area. I think the best talent. I'll go and say, the best talent today, I think, is coming out of the UK in terms of acting.
I would agree with that, non-biased.
Yeah. I'm slightly biased because I am Canadian, so we have the ties. But I think these three actors and actresses are young and up and coming, and they would be phenomenal in their roles. But yeah, Tarantino, it just gets me percolating on who he can work with. There's so many great actors and actresses out there.
Yeah. One more name just for the actress thing. I'll throw Alicia Vikander in there.
Oh yeah, phenomenal.
Because recently she has impressed me a lot. And she's done 3 different types of films I've seen her in, and she's done 3 different types of roles. That's impressed me. She's essentially the female Michael Fassbender, which is quite convenient because, as far as I'm aware, aren't they in a relationship apparently? So
yes, they are. Yeah.
So very, very convenient that way. And going off the Saoirse Ronan thing, if Tarantino revisits Kill Bill Volume 3, I can imagine Saoirse Ronan maybe doing a good being a good Beatrix's daughter.
Oh yeah, that'd be sweet.
So if he ever does revisit, because he keeps teasing everyone, like, maybe I would like to visit it one time. There's a reason why we left it this long. So Saoirse Ronan for Beatrix Jr. So that I could imagine that. But yeah, I mean, Donald Gleason and Oscar Isaac, I'll be completely fine if they end up having like an on-screen bromance, like Affleck and Damon and McAvoy and Fassbender and et cetera, et cetera. That all interesting choices, I think. So I think with kind of that being said, we should wrap it up. And and I could talk more and more about Tarantino, in all honesty. But there's got to be a cut-off time because we can't go forever. But yeah, again, overall, I am just a huge Tarantino fan. I think it says something that we can talk this much about him just on his own and his filmography and what he's like. And we didn't even touch upon like him just as a person. We kind of did a little bit, but I mean, yeah, he's got such a great expanded filmography. Excited to see whatever he does, whether if he stays on film or whether if he dives in TV, or if he just does novels or books or whatnot, which or plays. He's been talking about doing plays recently, I think.
Yeah, he has. Yeah,
which would be it's a sense that his films are essentially plays anyway, so it's not that much of a jump. But yeah, I mean, thanks Tyrell for coming on. It's been
thank you.
It's been a lot of fun talking about this. Clearly a filmmaker we both have a love for, and we related to a lot, as well as we had a bit of disagreement, which I think's a great
perfect,
a great thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you want to tell everyone out there where they can find you and what you've got coming up, if you do have anything coming up? And thank you for coming.
Yeah, okay. Well, you can find me on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tyrell Lisson, TyrellLisson.
Link will be in the description.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I do a bunch of series there now. We're really amping it up. I'm bringing a lot of other people involved. We got Recast with a bunch of friends of mine. We have the Blu-ray updates, and we have Alt Cinema, which is trying to bring kind of weight to feminist cinema and other alternative cinemas like that, and smaller issues, or not smaller issues, but smaller minorities in cinema. Pan-Tilt Zoom's coming back. Tim and I have been working on the first episode of season 2. We have sneak peek I'll give you. We have Hector Navarro from Superhero News, really cool guy, as well as a cool op-ed from Tim himself. So you can check that out at youtube.com/PantiltZoom. But Oscar, thank you for allowing me to come on the channel on Heelcast again. I really had a good time, and make sure everybody obviously listening on your channel right now, but make sure you check out everything. Go back and watch the Christmas special, Very Gary Christmas. It was phenomenal. It was so funny, guys. Go check that out.
Thank you. We worked hard on that, and that was a blast. Yeah, guys, go check out Tyrell's stuff. The Recast thing seems is cool. I enjoyed the Kevin Spacey one recently.
Thanks.
And the Alt Cinema, that's a very interesting series. Bringing more people on the channel, awesome direction it seems to be going. And again, Pan-Tilt Zoom, great stuff. Can't wait for the next episode. And for anyone who wants some drive to go and watch Pan-Tilt Zoom, I was on an episode, so there's something there. I talked Bond, and so that's fun. It was a good time. And you can find me on at Oscar_XIII on Twitter. Recently I've been talking mainly about pro wrestling because I've been getting back into that, so if you're into that, check out that stuff. I've been fanboying over AJ Styles, and I try to get the same handle on Instagram, but someone already took that handle, so you can find me on Instagram, heel_Oscar, heel as in the name of this channel, and stick on the YouTube channel. We are going to be targeting scripted stuff for the most part, and kind of a bit of a link. This is a bit of an announcement about VHS Pirate Season 2. because season 1 we had a theme of Tommy Wiseau for season 1, and season 2 we are going to be having a Quentin Tarantino theme, being whether that there is a direct reference to Tarantino, but there was also nice little things. We're throwing nice little things in there, just showing appreciation for Tarantino. There is going to be there's going to be a big blood scene in there, hopefully. So I mean, yeah. I didn't plan this. I didn't plan for it to be like. I didn't plan to do it sounds like I did it to promote VHS Pirates, but I really didn't. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that and other stuff, and just other content on the channel and on Tyrell's and whatnot. And links going to be down below for Tyrell's channel, and I put the Pantilt Zoom link there as well, and Tyrell.
Thank you.
And on the screen you can see Tyrell's Twitter handle anyway, and same thing for us again. And yeah, what are your guys' opinions on Tarantino in general? What are some of your favorite things, favorite films on Tarantino, favorite characters? Go along what we talked about if you want. It'll be fun to discuss with people in the comments. I nearly said description. And that'll be interesting. And till next time, guys, we shall see you later, and see ya.